mechanism to record the meeting per the open records legislation.
Recording has started.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chris.
Sure.
Okay, Joy, may I ask you to call the roll of the commissioners, please?
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Okay, Commissioner David Amenti, Commissioner Iris Barnes.
Here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Simon Barrett Williams. Commissioner Charles Chavis. Commissioner Crary.
Here.
Commissioner Davidson. No. Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Tasha Dupree-Willie.
Here. Did you say Dupree Wilson?
Wilson, yes.
Okay, here.
Commissioner Martinez. Commissioner Fakule. Commissioner Ailey.
Here.
Commissioner All.
Here.
Commissioner Eves.
Here.
Commissioner Mobley. Commissioner Snowden. Commissioner Stevenson. Commissioner Schwartz. Is Ali? Is Anita? No, she's here. I think it's all right.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Kristen McFarlane.
I'm here.
Sophia Arcike.
Present.
Okay. Stephanie Thompson is absent. And my name is Joy. Good morning to everybody again.
Okay. Thank you, Joy. Well, we have the unfortunate situation where we do not have a quorum present, which means, I guess, officially we cannot transact any official actions. However, I don't think that should stop us from at least discussing some things, whether we want to or not. Perhaps also we could ask, for those members of the public who are present, if you could identify yourselves either, through, just, speaking up or putting and actually, if you could put your information in the chat, so this way we can capture that, that would be wonderful.
Nick, I just wanted you, I don't know if it's at this point, but we finally have a new staff member in the Legacy of Slavery Department, Hannah Lane, who is with us today. So very happy and proud.
Fantastic. Welcome.
She was an intern for us back in 2018.
Okay, well, congratulations on the full-time position and welcome to the Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here, though I suppose I'm here as a member of the public. So hello.
Well, in whatever capacity you wish, we are happy to have you here. And did I see Carl Snowden joined us?
It looks like Carl is here.
Okay, great. We're one step closer. Okay. All right. And to those of you who've submitted your information in the chat box, thank you all for coming. Let me see here. Since I guess we can't approve the minutes because we don't have a quorum. So maybe for the moment we can just move to the public comment. So if anybody would like to share their thoughts, their ideas, their questions, comments, criticisms, concerns, please feel free to do so now. Don't everybody rush at once. Yes, a new commissioner has been selected, and if I'm not mistaken, Sophie, we are still going through the process of formalizing whatever paperwork needs to be done before we make that announcement official.
Yes, I believe that the new person needed to fill out an application. I'm not sure if that's happened, but I would circle back to see if they've done that.
Okay.
There's some official paperwork that has to be filled out before we can move forward.
Okay, I will make a note and refer that to Chair Fakunle. Other questions, comments, concerns?
Hi there, it's Hess again. I'm on mute because working from home first week of summer with kids. I had a question about the public meetings or the public hearings for this year. I didn't see any online, and I missed the last business meeting. Has that been put on pause, or is there any updates to be given?
Okay, and those of you on the executive committee and/or those of you who know better, feel free to correct me. But my understanding is we don't have any. That's one of the things that I was hoping we'd be able to get to today. We don't have any hearings currently scheduled. That is in part due to the fact that Stephanie Thompson, our outgoing program manager, is leaving in her capacity as program manager, and we are still looking to hire her successor. And this was one of the things I wanted to talk about, sort of bring up, and I guess since I've got the chair's comments piece, we can sort of get into that. Yeah, I mean, I am very much concerned that we don't have anything scheduled at this point. I mean, especially given that we have gotten the extension, and again, I think, I'll say it again, sort of, to warn against the false sense of security of having that extra time, because in practical terms, it's really not an awful lot of time to do the things that we need to do. As Stephanie, she's not here right now, but as she would say, we have two deliverables. That's public hearings, and the final report. The public hearings are a means to the end of the final report, combined with the information, the data collected by the research committee and others, with whom we are working to gather this information. And so, yes, we really need to get moving, even in the absence of a full-time program manager, we should be looking to schedule and plan these hearings. As I said, in many instances, sort of looking at the hearings that we've already staged, we've worked very closely, and I would say, in great part relied on the local coalitions of the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project. And I'm just going to give Will a shout out, and all of, the MLMP colleagues, who are here present, because honestly, I really don't know that these hearings would have happened without the help of those local coalitions. And as I've said on several occasions before, we have, I think, 3 counties where we don't have, Maryland Lynching Memorial Project local coalition, where lynchings have been documented, for which we are still responsible for staging hearings. And so we need to figure out, on our part as the commission, how to prepare and stage commissions in the absence of a local coalition. And even whether or not there is a coalition, it's still our responsibility. And so even if we don't have a program manager, we should be working towards organizing and staging those hearings. So in the absence of a quorum, there's officially nothing that we can do. But I would be curious to know if there are members of any of the local coalitions on the call, if anybody might be willing and able to work to stage a hearing at some point. I'm going to say at this point, sometime in the fall, because just given the time that it will take to get these things organized, and to get the word out, realistically, we'd be looking at the last quarter, basically September, October, November, because again, we don't want to start competing with the high holy days that come towards the end of the year. Are there any county coalitions that might be in a position with that? I would be more than happy to. And I dare not speak for Will. I'll let you.
No, thank you. I mean, actually, Hess and I have been in touch, and I think we have kind of a template for the way we get these groups started that we've used in the past, and that I provided to Hess and to people in it's Queen Anne but anyway, and another county, one of the other 2 counties that don't have coalitions yet. And so I'm hopeful that we can engage, get this thing going over the summer when Hess, you have a little bit more time. But we're ready to move whenever you are.
Yes, Hannah, you've raised your hand.
Hi there. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is my first meeting, so of course I'm going to have a few questions. Okay, so I understand that some things cannot be discussed in this meeting because the quorum is not here, and this is a commissioner. And who is the quorum? And like, what's everyone's roles here? Who is on the commission? Sorry.
No, that's fine. And here again, I suppose it's probably as good a time as any to kind of refocus ourselves, recenter ourselves, and kind of, hopefully recommit ourselves to the work. By statute, the HB is at 307 that was passed in 2019. There are supposed to be 18 commissioners, on the commission, 14 representing a variety of entities, whether they be, private institutions, the Maryland's HBCUs, various cultural organizations, and other state entities. So there are 14, and then there are 4 at-large members who were nominated by the other, 14 commissioners and officially appointed by the governor. So we are at 17. We've just gone through the process of selecting a person to nominate and recommend to the governor. And this was, the piece. We're waiting for the paperwork to come through before that appointment is made official. Now, according to our bylaws, we need a quorum to transact business, and that means we need, half plus 1, which for our purposes would be 10. And currently we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 commissioners present. So yes, this is our problem.
That's what's meant by quorum. I see.
Yes. Because otherwise a minority, it's like, oh, we don't have everybody here, but we're just going to do stuff, and that's kind of the way to prevent those sorts of things from happening.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you so much for explaining that.
Sure.
And I was actually just on the Maryland Lynching Memorial website, and it looks like there are 4 counties that don't have groups, maybe? Is that what y'all are referring to? And I'm seeing Calvert County, Caroline, Queen Anne's, as Miss Hess mentioned. But hopefully, maybe soon there will be a group. And then Howard County, is that accurate?
I do believe Howard does have a coalition.
Okay, maybe it's just not here on the website yet. Cool.
Okay. So other questions, comments?
How long is the current extension for?
I believe we have the extension through, is it December 2025, and then we sunset in June of 2026?
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, as I said, it sounds like an awful lot of time, but given the amount of work and the scope of work that we have to do, I keep saying that's really not as much time as we seem to think it is, because, again, looking at other entities that have, engaged, truth commissions that have engaged in this kind of work, to, a body, they have all said that they underestimated the amount of time needed to complete the final report. So given that, going backwards from that, the amount of time needed to gather the information so that we can start working on that report, it's really not a lot of time. So
I hear you. Yeah. In what ways can the public be involved with supporting y'all as you approach these 2 deliverables before the 2026 summer?
Sure. I am so glad you asked that question. I guess to members of the of the commission, as well as people who have been following the Reconciliation Committee, I set up a Google Doc, asking for people to share their ideas for reparations and recommendations for the commission to make to the General Assembly and the governor. If anybody is interested in seeing that and sharing your ideas, send me an email. I will put my email in the chat and I will give you access to it. Let's see here. Oh, I don't need captions. I need the chat. Where is? I'll find it somewhere. Here we go. And so that would be the first thing that I would suggest. And as the chair of the Reconciliation Committee, who is primarily tasked with developing recommendations, I would be most grateful, and that would be, from my vantage point, the biggest thing that you could do to help the commission to prepare for that. Hearings, that's one of those all hands on deck. Everybody's got to roll up their sleeves and get to work on this, especially in the absence of a program manager. Other commissioners or people who are, stalwart, supporters and collaborators in the commission's work. Do you have any ideas as to how you all could be helping us? Okay, thank you, Reverend Taggart. But here again, at least just knowing, so that we can start roughing out a tentative schedule, I think would be very, very helpful.
Nick, could I add
Yes,
one
please do.
thing here? I just in response to Reverend Teichert's comment, I don't think it's not required that local coalitions or anyone involved in a hearing, it's not required to have identified descendants. I mean, that's a tough ask. So I don't want anyone. I don't think anyone should be under the misconception that that's a requirement in order to have a hearing.
Right.
I mean, it's a bonus, but it's not a requirement.
I mean, definitely, it's a bonus. I mean, but for example, if I'm not mistaken, the Anne Arundel hearing, they didn't have descendants participating there. So yeah, it's definitely not required. I think it adds tremendously if you can find them, but there again, it's not a requirement. I saw Michelle Gowrick. Did you have your hand up?
I did. I suspect this is so outside the realm of possibility, but I think in South Africa, the commissioners were able to work full time. Like there was enough money that freed the commissioners up. So even if the report was still quite an onerous task, it was more doable. Is it completely outside the realm of possibility that more money can come from the governor to free up at least certain commissioners?
Well,
and can the public help us?
okay, and before I turn things over to our colleagues in the Attorney General's office, I mean, just in point of fact, the South African TRC had a full-time staff, so and that makes a world of difference. And I know we are in the process of trying to hire someone full-time, to work as a program manager, and I will turn things over to Zanita, Kristen, and Sophie to discuss more as to where we are in that process.
I'm sorry, can you repeat we're having a
Yeah.
offline, attorneys are having an offline conversation about the quorum, the impact of them not having a quorum. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
Can you repeat the
Yeah, if you could
question?
just give us a, sort of an update as to where we are, hiring a successor to Stephanie Thompson.
Well, hopefully folks saw, I just checked and confirmed that the vacancy notice is on the commission's website in that position. So thank you for posting it there. That position closes on the 20th. So hopefully we'll get some good candidates through that process. But and we have made it full-time, as you all know, filling a part-time contractual position was very difficult, which is why we, have been at this for many months. And so, we're fingers crossed that making it full-time will attract, more applicants. In the meantime, I've certainly encouraged the commission leadership to continue to move forward with scheduling public hearings, as we did hold our first public hearing without a project manager. And Stephanie left us a wonderful template for the hearing process. And so I do believe, as Commissioner Creary said, that it is possible to move forward. In fact, I encourage you all to move forward so that there is enough time to complete the hearing process, develop the recommendations, and actually procure assistance to help us in drafting a report and then having the information necessary to put that report together. So however we can be of assistance in the meantime, but we'll do our best to work with commissioners to hire the new project manager in the meantime.
Thank you. And yes, to Reverend Tucker, to your question, what are the basic requirements? We'd need ideally people on the ground, who would be willing to work with the commission. But even if there aren't people on the ground, we as a commission have that responsibility to engage in that work. And I think, as Anita mentioned, Stephanie left us a wonderful template. We have connections for people, so that we can make sure that, it will be recorded. Ideally, that it will also be, broadcast, online. We have those connections, so I think it's a matter of just making sure that we get somebody taking the reins and starting to move things, forward. And that's something that, I think, certainly, those of us on the executive committee, we should be taking the lead on that.
I dropped a question in the chat because I'm curious about the template for the public hearings that was mentioned. Is there any way that members of the public can view that and offer insights or suggestions?
That's a good question.
I would, if I may interject, this is Kristen McFarland. I would suggest if a member of the public wants the document, you should submit a request for PIA or a PIA request, and then the commission can review the request and determine if they can release the document to the public or what portions of the document can be released to the public.
Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah. I think it could be really useful if members of the public were able to view that and see the proposed shape for a public hearing. Yeah, I'm wondering what so far, because I am so new here at the State Archives as a full-time person, what public hearings have looked like so far, what members of the public have expressed that they want to get out of them, and what members of the public have contributed to them as well. So it's mostly what I'm curious about.
Sure. And I do believe all of the recordings of the hearings that have happened thus far are available on the commission's website. So you can track them down there. And here again, I'm just gonna, own my being remiss in terms of getting, transcripts, and to the extent that I'm holding up the transcript process, I apologize. But we do have a company that is working to transcribe them as well. And I'll just say, Zenita, again, I haven't had as much time as I was hoping to look at them, but from what I've seen, they are, I think, in good enough shape so that we can move that process forward. If other folks who have had a chance to see them concur or disagree, please feel free to say so. But I think in some respects, yeah, we should just move forward with that so that we have the transcripts available. Because the one thing that, they do read a lot faster than watching the entire hearing, as powerful as they are, seeing them and hearing them as they unfolded, they're tremendously powerful. But if you're just trying to get up to speed on them, reading the transcript takes a lot less time. So, so yeah, if anybody else wants to chime in on that, please feel free to do so. Okay. Are there other thoughts, questions, comments? Yes, thank you, Will. That highlights piece that you put together is fantastic and incredibly powerful. Reverend Teichert.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, this has been so interesting. I've viewed a number of the hearings in the past, and the power really comes, in my opinion, from the descendants of not just the victims, but could be descendants of people in the impacted community, because as we know, the racial terror was intended toward the Black community there. So we in Prince George's have been really figuring that we needed to have more than we've got, more than we seem like we're going to find at this point, even though we have the help of the Heritage Associates that you all have contracted with, and a number of our members are, members of OGS, the Prince George's chapter. So having this document, I would so request. I don't see why it shouldn't be more available to the coalitions, so that we could have a realistic idea of what you all expect. Thank you.
No, that makes sense to me. And again, I'm just making a note of that to bring to the next executive committee meeting. Other thoughts?
I know one thing that was discussed a few months ago was having somebody do more with like social media. Is the hope that the program manager is going to take some of that on to try to raise more awareness amongst the public?
Yes, that is the hope.
And Commissioner Curry, I thought that the chair had asked for commissioners to volunteer to support that effort as well, and maybe consider establishing like another subcommittee that would be focused on messaging and other strategies for getting the word out that would guide staff and any consultant that we would hire.
Yes, that is true. That I do recall. And again, I will be the first to say I am not terribly savvy when it comes to social media. So Those of you colleagues who are more inclined to work in that realm, I would encourage you to please step up, speak up, take some initiative, and help us on that front.
Commissioner Curry, also, I was trying to think back to some of the communications I was copied on with the previous project manager. I do want the local coalitions to know that once you have been identified as a jurisdiction, then when we start the planning process, that run of show document is shared. I mean, the template, it's not sort of held in secret. It's just, it is tweaked to is tailored to the specific, because for example, there may not be a descendant in the community. So there's a conversation with the representatives from the local coalition or whatever representatives who have, you know, a relationship to the known victims in that jurisdiction, and a collaboration in terms of what that final run of show. We have a starting template, but it is tailored to each jurisdiction, and it becomes a living document that, you know, each party has a role to sort of finalize, because some jurisdictions are more engaged and sort of have more information to share. But I don't want anybody to think that this is something that is held close and is never shared, and so local coalitions have no information by which to you know, to prepare for a particular hearing. Also, my understanding is that there are commissioners that are assigned to each local jurisdiction that can share with them the details and the needs in terms of what the basics that we're looking for to have each jurisdiction ready to go. So it would be unfair for us to sort of not share that information and have that dialogue. I unfortunately don't have the list in front of me, but if whoever was asking that question, I think if you have an interest in getting the information and connecting with the commissioner and beginning to prepare your jurisdiction, all of that can happen ASAP.
Thank you, Zenita. Yes, Reverend Tykert.
Well, I guess that would be me. And I would like to say in response that we too are an all volunteer effort, and we totally exhausted ourselves on the recent and very successful, I might add, community remembrance program for the earliest of our lynching victims. So having, I understand that it is evolving, it would need to be the run of show idea, of course. But anything that is currently available could be of help in even just helping us ratchet down what we thought you all wanted. Because some of the hearings have been so impactful, like I already said, and we're striving to make ours just as impactful as anyone else's. So I'm going to put a request in the chat, specifically, how do I get that information? Thanks.
Hi, this is Kristen McFarland again. I just want to piggyback on what Zenita Hurley was saying and confirm that, you know, the local coalitions should be working with the commission and their commission liaisons. And so you would certainly have access to the run of show, the template that is separate from what I was understanding the previous question to be just a general member of the public interested in what the commission or how the commission does its run of show, which even in that case, it's unlikely we would restrict the document. But I just want to be clear that, you know, for the local coalitions, you definitely should have access to the run of show document. And, you know, if you know who your commission liaison is, you guys should definitely be in contact and talking and going over the run of show, the template, and basing it and updating it, as Anita said, making it a living document so it reflects what your coalition's hearing would look like. So definitely we're happy to share it with you. I think that we do need to get your liaison in the loop so that you guys are working together.
Thank you, Kristen. Anything else? Okay, I guess moving on to the next thing, chair's comments and soul check. I think I've certainly said enough to count for chair's comments. And then I guess just in terms of soul check, how are folks doing? Lord knows there's certainly enough things happening in the world today that are affecting us in any number of ways. But again, the New Yorker in me is wanting to invoke the spirit of Ed Koch. How am I doing? How are we doing, folks?
The last few, oh, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, no, it's fine. I would say what we just found out, it just came out yesterday as far as recent action that happened, and you wonder how much it has to do with the general tenor of the country, is that there was a multiple shooting yesterday in Annapolis. And so how I found out about this was literally on my phone, and I see breaking news, and you think breaking news is going to be something a big political thing, but it was like 6 people shot in Annapolis. And so then you start getting the safe warnings, or people saying I'm safe in Annapolis, not that, well, where is this? And it turned out that it was in this area called 1000 Paddington Boulevard in Annapolis, which apparently is 2 miles or so south of downtown Annapolis, where we had a very successful Annapolis Pride Parade last week. And what I just found out this morning, unfortunately, 3 people have died, and I think three others are in trauma. From what I understand this morning, not from over the news, but because people live here and have heard of it, is that it was a parking dispute, that there was a graduation party going on, and a neighbor was very upset with people who had parked in his driveway. And don't know exactly what was said or what wasn't said, but apparently the person went back into his house, got his gun, and then shot people. And from what I understand, again, this is from people in the neighborhood or people here who have heard it, is that the father was shot, the son was shot, and a friend of the son was shot. And I think those are the 3 who were killed. Now, again, this is vis-a-vis someone who lives here, and then 3 other people are at least in the hospital. I don't know if anyone's been released yet, and it hasn't come out yet. But it just made me think again about the general tenor of the nation now, is that we were sort of teasing each other, is that when we were growing up, you got in a fight and you'd fight somebody, and then you'd be calling the principal's office, and maybe you'd be suspended a day or maybe not, and that would go around. And now it's like you have an argument with somebody and you get a gun, so you shoot the person. And it seems like that's very much, unfortunately, where we are right now, where it's shoot, and then you have consequences, and then you worry about what happens. But you're right. Did you shoot somebody and then claim you're afraid, or claim stand your ground, or claim something after the fact that you just take matters into your own hand in a fatal manner? And that's what's so, I think, disturbing about where we are today, and especially with all the additional political background that we're looking at right now, that's further what is being manifested. So that's my basic soul check.
Thank you, Chris. Yes, go ahead, Hen.
Hi. So let's see. Ooh, I think this week, Chris, again, hi, Chris. I think this week will be my official 1 whole complete month here in my full-time position at the State Archives, which is really exciting. Again, back in 2018, I was an intern here. Yeah, this last month has been amazing. I love being back here. I love being able to do research again. I've never stopped. It's a thing. It's just like it's the Hannah thing. I'm always researching something, be it jazz dance or Baltimore history. I'm from Baltimore. But a big focus of the last month for me has been catching up on the research that's been done here at the State Archives about lynchings in Maryland, catching up on some 20 years or something of the work of archivists here before me. It's been a big task and one I'm honored to have, especially since a part of my role here will be continuing to build on that research for future generations of Marylanders and Americans who will surely still be tussling with these subjects, with these histories of our home. Just this morning, I have like this crazy list of tasks today, actually, but one of them, I was like, I'm going to compile as many resources as I can, just like for my own edification and maybe to use later down the line of stuff that maybe other people can use when they're learning about lynchings, because I rely pretty heavily on news articles, as we are all aware is a really big resource for lynching research, and then government records that we have here at the archives. But I was like, I want to see what knowledge is percolating around the public via the interwebs. And of course, I came across some deeply disturbing stuff. I learned, and correct me if I got this part wrong, Chris, but at one point there was an interest by the State Archives or maybe by the Commission in collecting any extant material culture that could be floating around the state of Maryland, postcards, for instance, or photographs, or that kind of thing that kind of stuff that we know was produced following a lot of lynchings. And in my search for these things, failed search this morning, I came across a lot of, horror, disturbing stuff, made me dizzy. And then it's weird reading this stuff, feeling about this stuff while I'm here at work, like I'm at work and there's usually like a very healthy separation of one's like personal stuff and work stuff at work. But this is very personal research. My family members were enslaved in Virginia and also here in Maryland on the Eastern Shore. I'm starting to learn a little bit about that. My great grandma grew up in Charles County, where I have read about lynchings that took place there, and it's quite personal. So every day when I come to work, and I am excited to come here every single day, it's this really new and like really powerful feeling of I am so like urgently ready and excited to do this work, and by God, is it a lot of work. So yeah, that's what's on my heart lately, and I'm very happy that this committee or this commission exists, because it's very important, and I know that not many states in the United States have a commission like this that's figuring out how to do this, how to do truth and reconciliation following something that most people don't know how to talk about yet, or we don't know whose family was impacted by it, because it can be so difficult to trace down relatives and such, and it's also difficult to approach descendants of these horrors and such. I imagine that there's no precedence in the state of Maryland before this commission, so yeah, I'm just also thinking about how, like, what the process y'all have been going through since 2019, figuring out the shape of this and what it will be. So yeah, I'm like excited and like not feeling daunted, but just like, whoa, lots ahead for everyone. And it's like crazy to think of one's position in this many, many years of trying to understand lynching in Maryland and the United States. It's wild.
Wow. Well, Hannah, let me just say, welcome to the struggle. I truly appreciate your enthusiasm. I think, for those of us who've been doing this for a while, it feels refreshing to have, new blood, new person, coming up and willing to roll up your sleeves and join us. thank you. Would that, and Hess, thank you too. For your enthusiasm, your eagerness to join us in this work. Which is not to say those of you who have been with us, from the beginning and joining along the way. Lord knows, it's been a process, and even just to get to where we are today has taken literally years. And so, in that regard, yes, what we are doing, this is the first commission of its kind in the nation, statewide. I think California's, was looking at reparations writ large for slavery, and so I think in some respects there's some models, and I shared their preliminary recommendations with the commission at the last meeting. But yeah, what we're doing is unprecedented, and so we are really, literally making it up as we go along, and that's a tough thing to do. And it has required patience, patience, a whole lot of, and again, frustration, because why aren't we moving faster? Why can't we get this done 3 weeks ago? But that's just, that's part of the nature of literally being a trailblazer. Nobody else has done this kind of work before. At this level, as an officially state sanctioned institution, looking at this particular, to use the language of the California Commission, of this particular atrocity of racial terror lynching. And so, I think we've, to borrow from the spiritual, we've come this far by faith, and we've got a ways to go yet. And so we need your enthusiasm. We need your willingness to get your hands dirty, with the stuff of history on those documents that nobody's looked at, in decades, if not centuries. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys too. Thank you guys.
Other soul checks before we move on. Okay. I know Commissioner Armenti had said that he didn't have a report from the research committee. And similarly, Commissioner Davis didn't have one for the logistics committee. And I can say for the reconciliation committee, I had sent out to members of the committee the California Reparations Task Force recommendations, with the specific ask that you read that and that we would schedule a meeting to discuss. And I will reiterate that. And so when let's find a time and let's have a conversation about that and bring that to the next meeting. That is my hope. So there is the Reconciliation Committee's report. Do we have any announcements? I think, was it, yes, please, Will.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure folks knew that we are going to have our annual conference on October 14. It will again be at the Lewis, and Clint Smith has agreed to appear at the conference. So we're pretty excited about that. So details to follow, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Okay, thank you. And I know somebody else had put an announcement in the chat earlier. Was that yes, Commissioner Snowden, you had the announcement about Tennessee Representative Justin Pearson.
Yeah, he's going to be in Anne Arundel on June 30th, and it's an opportunity for people who would like to come and hear him to be present. I think we're going to see a lot more of him as a national leader. That event has really taken him to new leadership opportunities, and he's a young man, I think, with a lot of energy and vision. Today happened to mark the 60th anniversary of the murder of Medgar Evers, as we're looking around in terms of history. And Chris, your analysis of what happened in Annapolis is absolutely right. And it's a reminder that the times we're living in are very tense times. There is a system that we have put in place. It's called the Emmett Till Alert System. And it's a system that warns communities of color when there's imminent danger. And for those of you who are aware of what the dark web is, tomorrow people should pay close attention to what's going on in their neighborhoods and communities. Extremists, white extremists who are going to be using tomorrow, according to the dark web, as a day of rage, starting at 3 o'clock when the twice impeached disgraced president has to appear in a court trial. There is on this dark web statements that people around the country do various things to protest his court trial. So for those of us in Maryland, we should pay close attention to it. A Emmett Till alert system went out this morning, putting people on guard, telling them to pay a lot more attention. And Chris, one of the things that happened last night in a shooting, it has some racial undercurrents to it. The people who were murdered were all Latinos, and the guy who murdered them happened to be white, and made some comments that suggest that some of that shooting had to do with his notion of who should be in this country. So these are the times that we're living in.
Thank you, Commissioner Snowden. Yes, Hannah.
Am I still audible?
Yes.
Computers do it sometimes. On the subject of, as Mr. Snowden said, death anniversaries, if my notes are correct, around this week, this part of June in the past, a number of Marylanders we are currently aware of were murdered during lynchings. Some of the names I have handy: William Andrews around June 9th, 1895 in Somerset County. Townsend Cook, 1885, the first week of June in Carroll County. Benjamin Hance around the 17th in 1887. Goodness, many June others. Isaac Kemp in Somerset County. This is according to my notes, but I'm pretty good at notes sometimes. I don't want to miss anything, but John Sims and here in Annapolis, Anne Arundel County in 1875. Charles Whitley, who I believe was a white man in Calvert County. Yeah, in Calvert County in 1886, the first week of June. So these are just some folks in Maryland, and there's a number of folks who were murdered towards the end of June as well. But just thinking of these individuals who a very long time ago around this part of the year were murdered.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Hannah. Yes, Joy.
Yeah, sorry. I wanted to confirm from Mr. Will, if you can be more specific about the annual conference he was talking about.
Yes, ma'am. It's the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project, our annual conference. It'll be the 6th conference, I believe, and it's on October 14, 2023. It's a Saturday. at the Lewis Museum in Baltimore.
Okay, thank
And
you.
and just give me a shout if you need anything else.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
All right. Anything else in terms of announcements? And I guess, well, I have one on a personal matter. In fact, I will not be able to attend the next general meeting of the commission, because I will be starting a new position as the institutional Jedi officer at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies in Monterey, California.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. It's been a long time coming, but it's finally happening. And I finally get to go to the University of somewhere warm. So, although my brother immediately posted, it's like, well, I've never had as cold an experience as a summer in San Francisco. So with that caveat in mind, I will be heading west, around about the end of the month. And I specifically asked if I could continue with this work, and they said, well, we were expecting that you would, so I will still be able to work with you all in making sure that we are able to do the work that we've taken on and have taken to heart. So I am thrilled to be able to share this with you, and to know that, next month aside, I will still be here and still be working with you all. So thank you.
Thank you.
And yes, I don't know if anybody else has anything to say. If not, we can, I guess, ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll put in that motion. I'll just say that on a positive note, I'm supposed to be interviewed tomorrow by Kenyatta Berry of Genealogy Roadshow. So hopefully I'll see all good things. So
fantastic.
I don't know when it's going to come out, but I know it's supposed to happen tomorrow. So,
but that's great. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yes, Commissioner Dupree Wilson.
Yes, just very quickly. I got tenure, so I'm doing
congratulations
cartwheels and screaming hallelujah. So thank you
that
all
is
for
huge.
you all for your support.
Congratulations. Wow, tenure, that's no small thing.
Thank you.
Okay. Then may I ask for a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Do we have a second? Okay, seconded. Is there anyone opposed? And as our august chair frequently says, never anybody says no. So with that, I will thank you all for taking the time and for sharing your thoughts and your hearts. And I look forward to hearing about all the great and wonderful things that you'll be talking about next month. And I will be back in August in person. So all the best to you. Have a wonderful and happy Juneteenth celebration next week. And yes, we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.